Hello and welcome to another Dev Diary. And today we have the public and cargo transportation on the third feature highlight for Cities Skylines 2. So, as we did the other times, we will go through this together and we'll talk about everything that's happening on the video. So, let's watch it together and call out everything that happens along the way.
Transport networks set the rhythm of life in your city. As they move,
I'll stop right there because the first thing that I have to say is the lighting. Like, look at how good the lighting is in the game. I don't know if it's just the video mode or photo mode or capture mode or whatever they call it, but this looks really good. You can also see on the left here an helicopter and a plane going by.
move people and cargo, they can create harmony and discord. This finely tuned orchestra of ships, vehicles, planes, and trains is your
That's also a pretty good view of the airport. I think we have another view later on, but it just shows you how big the asset for the airport is. It feels like it's not modular or anything like the airports you'll see on Cities Skylines 1, but it does have some upgrades and you can add things like cargo depot or cargo something that adds like options for cargo transportation as well. But we'll get into that a little bit later. But this looks quite cool.
to conduct. To create a thriving metropolis, maintain a steady beat to keep your city in motion. You build a city from
I think we will have the need for Traffic Manager Resident Edition again. If you look at this node quite around here, you'll see a lot of vehicles just trying to get like from the left lane into the outer lane, like on the right side. And that is actually what causes a lot of traffic.
You
So
build
look
a
at
city
this.
from scratch in Cities Skylines.
I don't know if you noticed that, but this truck was just like crossing everything there. There we go. And this is exactly what the problem usually is that creates a lot of traffic. So not a good thing. Not to mention that there is a big traffic queue in here. I don't know why everything else seems to be very empty, but who knows? And by the way, there will be a few things that I'll point out in here that I think needs an improvement. I know this is probably some screenshots or videos from the an early version of the game, so it's not the fully released version yet. But there are a few things that we certainly need to fix before this goes out.
From scratch in City Skylines 2. No public transport, no tracks, no runways. Creating these and other transportation networks is a crucial first step.
So she's talking about how you start with basically nothing. You start with buses and taxis only, and everything else you'll need to create as your city grows. But one of the biggest difference from City Skylines 1 in here is that now you have a development tree. It doesn't talk about this on this video. I think we might see that later on, but you actually choose what you unlock first. So for example, if you want to prioritize, let's say, a metro system in your city, you can go and unlock that as soon as you have enough points. I don't know how you get those points. Obviously, is as your city grows, but how you get there, I don't know. But as soon as you get that, you can unlock or metro or airport or train, and you can use that straight away. You don't need to reach certain milestones to be able to unlock these types of public transportations. And this is quite powerful because you can then work on your city and create your city based on some certain types of public transportation that you prefer to use in there.
After that, improving and integrating them paves the way for expansion. When you establish your city, citizens can take the bus or a taxi to get where they're going. These are the first transport options you'll unlock. They're reliable, cheap, and easy to route here, there, and everywhere.
Also, something that I have to mention is that for the bus depot, it says that you have to maintain it for periodically. So I believe that some of the buses will go back there and then they'll will be sent out again. I believe that's what might happen. It's not very clear yet, and I believe we will only know that when the game is actually released. But it works like that. You also have the option for normal gas buses and electric vehicles as well. And for electric ones, you need to upgrade the depot. For taxi, you start with taxis only being able to pick up people on the taxi stands. And if you upgrade the building, they can pick up anyone anywhere in the city and also on the stands that you place as well. By the way, this is some of the things you hear me complain about. As you can see in the image, you have these ripples between the road and the terrain. And this doesn't look very nice, I have to say. Feels like unfinished in some sense. And as you can see, it goes through all the way next to the road. And yeah, one of those small things that I believe needs a little bit of polishing yet.
Traffic conditions are their Achilles heel. It's no big deal in a new metropolis.
By the way, another thing that's very important, she mentioned that the traffic is the city's Achilles heels. And this is an acknowledgement that managing traffic in your city is how you can make it or break it. So I'm glad to hear that, because that is an acknowledgement from, I think, coming from Cities Skylines 1, that this is what make or break your city. And this is one of the most important factors that you can have in the city.
But it is for a growing city. That's when you'll level up your public transport.
All right, we're starting to see trains in here, and that'll be some other shots that we have these types of crossing, or basically is when you, I don't know what's the official name for that, but basically when you get to a station and you have the changing sides on the tracks here. And this, I think it's too tight. It needs to be a little bit wider or longer for the trains to actually move from one side to the other a little bit more evenly.
Think trains, trams, and subways. Each one has pros and cons.
Now I need to show you this. Keep an eye on this, on the wheels of the trains in here. It actually follows the actual track, and it's not accompanying the actual train itself. So it independent on the movement there. So I don't know if you can actually see this, but in here, this is pointing outwards. And if you go back a little bit, it's pointing inward. So it's actually following the track, which is pretty cool. And I love it.
They're all expensive to build and complicated, requiring depots, tracks, and stops where passengers can buy tickets.
Very important information here. It requires depots and obviously tracks for trains. So you need rewards for trains. You need obviously the airport that comes with that included. And for ships, you need the ship depot. For buses, the bus depot. Taxis, the taxi depot. For basically every single mode of public transportation. For metro, you also need a reward now. And that's a lot more realistic, quite good. And it will occupy a lot of space in your city as well. You have to be very mindful of that, because it is big, because like you need a lot of space for the trains or metros to get in and out of that. And that's where they start the line as well. So I believe you have to make sure that they can get into where they need to go. So very important. And by the way, look at this guy here. Looks fantastic.
Tickets and get on and off. That means they can't offer the far-reaching service of a bus line or the door-to-door service of a taxi. On the other hand, they're more efficient.
By the way, I'll go back a little bit just to show you something. It's just kind of weird for me that you have like the lanes very defined and the speed is very blurred. So really hope this is also something that will change on the final release, and we have like better decals in there, and they look kind of all the same. I think this is not looking part of the city in looking like that.
On the other hand, they're more efficient, not least because they carry more people and
Just to give an overall overview on the how this all look like. So you still have the lines for public transportation. You have the means of public transportation that you already know. You have the number of tourists that are utilizing the public transportation. You have the number of citizens as well that are utilizing that. We have in here a total of 64,000 people per month. And I saw a video from Flyvox that he was actually comparing this to the amount of people that you actually have in the city. So if you have like 96,000 people in the city and 64,000 is actually using public transportation, that's amazing. Like, that's an awesome job. But at the same time, I don't know if you have to consider that this is per month. So each person is actually using at least twice a day the public transportation, the ones that are actually using public transportation, because they're going to work and back to home, not to mention going for entertainment and leisure outside. So we have like time of the day in there, although we don't have days per se, like you don't have like 1st of March, 2nd of March, 3rd of March. You do have time of the day and the month. So I don't know if each day is actually a full month in the game. And even though like this is quite a lot of people, if what I'm thinking could be the right thing. So for example, this means like every citizen is using public transportation twice a day. In this case, a day is a month. Then it means that 30,000 odd people are using public transportation, which is a much more realistic number in my view. So I just want to touch on that and make sure that we talk about that, because I think that's an important point on the game as well. Now you do have the cargo routes in here, and you have truck, train, ship, and plane, and you can see the number of routes per each that we have and the amount of cargo they are um, shipping every month as well.
cargo and reduce road congestion. Let's start with subways. They're fast, high capacity, and they take
I also just want to take a look at this, because we can see in here that these can be upgraded with station services as well, and you have the upgrade that as a food service. How that impacts on the usage of this metro station or the line itself, I have no idea. But this is kind of cool knowing that we can do this, and kind of making me thinking, why wouldn't I do that? Is this increasing the upkeeping of the station itself, which is quite a lot per month already, or it just increases the efficiency, which in this one is quite good as well? I really don't know, and this is something that I didn't see any more details yet, but it's something to keep in mind on as well. And we can also see that we have 3 lines in here. So going through this, you can see details for each line. Much easier to see and to handle between views from lines and the full system in here as well. By the way, you have this option that shows you the public transportation view, and we will show you that in a second. But as you can see, we have 2 lines coming on this side, 1 line going through this side. Actually, you have more crossing there, but I don't think they all stop in here. But quite nice, quite very helpful details in there, but still some unknowns in how this works.
up very little room.
This is what I'm talking about. Sorry that I'm pausing this so much. But this feels like quite a lot, although it works. The feels like it's moving sideways, but this is because the wheels are actually in the right position in there. So it actually works the right way, but it still feels like this is too tight. But let's keep looking.
Take up very little room when they're underground. If they operate above ground, you can run them on elevated tracks so they don't get tangled up with road traffic. Trams. They're more flexible than trains, so you can more easily add lines.
I don't know if you noticed it, but there's something very cool about trams. Take a look at the catenary in there, and you will see that it actually moves up and down depending on where the cable actually is. This is so, so cool. Another thing that's pretty cool about trams is that now they can backtrack. So you don't need like a roundabout to make them go back anymore. They can get up to there and then go back without having to just going on a roundabout way.
So you can more easily add lines to service new and expanded neighborhoods. Build tram tracks on existing roads, or run them on dedicated tracks if that's the best way to keep the hustle and bustle dialed up. Trains carry.
One thing that's important to notice that is quite a big change from Cities Skylines 1 is that even go back a little bit, I don't know if in here, maybe here is a good point. To create actually, for example, a bus line, you first add the roads for buses, or let's say for train, you add the trains, and then you add the tracks, and then you add stations, and then you add for buses, you add shelters or bus points, and then you add the line. So you basically have a much a different way to set up lines. Before you would just put the line wherever you want. Now you have to actually create the station or stop or shelter for the bus for it to create the line. So you have an extra step in there. And I believe this is because you can now create like one section that have multiple stops in there. So, and it works in a little bit different way as well. So this is quite interesting and a different way to achieve how you actually build lines in Cities Skylines 2.
Way to keep the hustle and bustle dialed up. Trains carry loads of people too, and not just the.
Remember what I mentioned about clipping on the sides in here? That's quite a little bit odd in there. Like this keeps repeating everywhere we go. So yeah, that is something that I do believe needs to be fixed.
People too, and not just suburbanites. They can bring visitors from outside your city in large numbers. Trains play another critical role as cargo transport. Build a cargo train terminal, and you build a hub where businesses can receive, ship, and store incoming and outgoing goods.
So this is very important as well. So you create the rail yard, and I was saying, I think before rail yard, rail yard, sorry about that. But with that out of the way, it's very important for, especially for cargo, because now the way it will work, the train will bring the cargo to the yard or to the station, and then that will be stored in there. That will work as a warehouse. And then the trucks from the places where they need to go will go in there and pick that up. Instead of Cities Skylines 1, where the trucks will just spawn from the station themselves and go to the place and go back to the station. So it works in inverted in that sense. And by the way, the assets for trains are looking pretty cool as well. Really like it.
Water transportation is another option for passenger travel and moving cargo. It's another high-capacity network, though water transport's real potential lies in imports and exports. You see, cargo ships might be slower than trains, but these bad boys can carry 1,000 tons of stuff to and from your city.
1,000 tons is the ship capacity of a cargo ship. That's amazing, and that's like awesome. And it makes very clear that there is a difference between cargo, train, ships, and later on planes as well. Each one has a different purpose. Each one is better in certain circumstances, and they all have a place in your city.
Yeah, that's right. You can trade with other cities.
And confirmation that we can trade with other cities. If you didn't know that already, you can trade with other cities. So basically, you create the routes between your city and other cities. We don't know yet everything that you can trade, but we can see that cargo is one thing. We saw in a previous video that apparently water and sewage is something that you can kind of buy and sell as well. We still don't know how that works, but looks like it's possible. So it seems that other things might be possible as well.
So you'll need somewhere to house all the goods and resources coming and going. Easy. Like
Another thing here, assets look great, by the way, but why are those assets where you have like writings looking so blurred? It doesn't fit with the rest of the things. Please fix that.
cargo train terminals, cargo harbors double as cargo storage facilities.
Good.
Like all of the other networks, air transportation has drawbacks. Planes carry fewer passengers and less cargo than ships and trains. Airports are also astronomically expensive and have the footprint of a small town.
So astronomically expensive. Expect airports to be very, very expensive and something that you potentially will build only when you have like a pretty good flow of income coming into your city. It's not something that you can do very early on.
However, air transport has a pretty irresistible advantage: speed. Plus, planes won't add to road congestion.
Good
They
landing.
don't follow a rigid track, and they make outside connections incredibly easy. The transport mix in your city will become complex and intricate.
I like
Will
that
become
view because like it shows you so much in there. Like you see all the public transportations, you see tram stops, bus stops. It looks like so live. I think that's the word that I'm looking for. It's pretty cool. I really like it.
complex and intricate. Use the transportation overview.
There you go. This is the button at the bottom here. Then there was a lot of questions and comments about what that is. And it's good to see that you don't need to go anywhere else. It's readily available. I, for one, use this quite a lot. And I believe we use this even more in Cities Skylines too, based on the importance of public transportation in the city that this all presents. So really nice to see that UI-wise, it's a little bit easier.
To review passenger and cargo transportation networks separately. Filter again by transport type to see high-level details about individual lines and toggle them on or off. Use the transportation info view to understand the impact of your networks. Plan and manage transportation networks carefully to find the right tempo for the movement of people and cargo. Conduct it perfectly, and every citizen, trader, and tourist will march your
Yes, this is the end of the video, but that is in the final shot. Or maybe it's the second last shot. We still have, remember those ripples? Take a look at this and you see that that is actually kind of water underneath. And like you can, why? You can see that in here. You can see that in here. That doesn't look good. And again, please fix that before the release.
trader and tourist will march your city toward greatness.
This is a hospital, by the way. Really, really awesome asset in there. But that is it for the main video. That is a lot more information, obviously, on the actual dev diary. And we'll cover some of those right now. So, in terms of public transport types, we started with buses. We mentioned about having options for fuel operated or the electric buses, and you have to upgrade that to make them work. Every single mode of public transportation. Oh, I just love that they have like the CO colossal order at the back there. I missed that. To look at that, you might have to go at the dev diary in the Paradox website, and then you'll be able to see the CO livery on the bus in there, which is quite fun. But for every single mode of transportation, you can create outside connections. So for example, for intercity buses, you don't just put a bus station in there and they will start coming. You have to actually create those routes for the intercity buses to show up. So that's actually really cool because sometimes you would have that and you didn't want it, or they were just causing more problems than helping you out. And you can control number of vehicles, the length, where duration, and where they go, budget, what time of the day they work, and all that stuff. So that's really good and a really good change based on actually how we use all of that. Now, taxis, as I mentioned, they are much more flexible, but they add a lot to traffic, and you can add a taxi depot to your city and taxis, and I think you have to add the taxi stands as well, and then they'll pick up passengers from there. If you upgrade the taxi depot, then they can pick up fares in the whole city, not just in the stands anymore. So that is essentially, if you have taxis, that's more or less what you would like to happen, I believe. But yeah, you can control in smaller cities or smaller areas with the stands where you want people to be picked up. For trains, again, you need to build the rail yard, not wards. I still don't know why I was saying that, but yeah, there you go, rail yard. And you connect that to the tracks, and the trains you will go to your stops and stations to make all that happen. So for the rail yard provides the city with both passenger and cargo trains. So you just need one to provide that. Potentially they will have limitations on the number of vehicles they might run. Maybe, I think so, but I might be wrong. I know that bus depots, for example, and taxi depots, they do have limits. So I would expect the same for rail yards. And for tracks, you have double-way tracks, or I should say two-way tracks, and double tracks, or one-way train tracks. And you also have the options for elevated bridges and tunnels, along with the cut and fill tracks that you can do to run them lower than the ground level, which we usually use keys in Cities Skylines 1 to actually achieve that. Oh, and that's the name of the track changing that I was trying to remember. They are called track switches, so they can drive backward and forward as well. So you don't need to do like roundabouts for trains or trains, things like that. Final thing about train stations that can be upgraded with additional platforms and also connected to other forms of public transportation. So you can kind of generate your own hubs and make that work as an actual hub. The tram, I would say, is very similar to train, the way they work, except for obviously you can create train tracks on roads or create their own just train tracks in parallel or separate from the road system. And you can use you don't need stations to actually create the lines. You just need stops for that. And again, a train depot is necessary to maintain the train fleet and send out new trams to your lines. Subway is potentially one of the fastest mode of public transportation that we have, and it's high capacity for local public transport option. It's a very high initial investment for the infrastructure, but it's a very popular choice as well, so you make that money back very easily in the long term. And by the way, just to make it clear, a subway yard is needed for subways. So yeah, don't forget that. Otherwise, your lines won't work. For water transportation, you have both passenger and cargo options as well. As we mentioned, it can transport a high number of passengers, both inside and outside of the city. And for the cargo, it can transport a huge amount of cargo at the same time. For air, obviously, planes for passengers and cargo, and smaller amount of passengers and cargo compared to ships, but much faster in terms of reaching their goal. By what they say in the dev diary, it seems like we have a few options for airports, because what they say is that airports require a large amount of room to be built. The international airport being the size of a small town. So I believe you have maybe a small airport as well that you can use in your city. So that's yet to be seen. And I believe they are keeping something under the wraps for kind of little surprises for when they release the game. But I think we might have more options in there. That's all something that's really awesome about the airport. When you place the airport, you can see the projected landing and takeoff zones at the end of the buildings, which give you the approximation of where limitations to zone buildings heights are applied. So airports will limit the height of buildings in the landing and takeoff zones to avoid collisions. This is awesome. This is really, really good and a lot, obviously, more realistic than Cities Skylines 1, that the planes will just drive through mountains. Let's actually see how they will perform against mountains, but I think this is a big step in the right direction there. Now, back to cargo, because they talk quite a lot about cargo again. I think one of the main things in there is that the cargo train terminal and the cargo ship terminal, they both can also store and distribute the goods in the city. So they work as, they double down as warehouse as well. So, and that's quite good and powerful because it means that goods can stay there, and not because a new train or ship just arrived that there'll be like all those trucks going out all at the same time. So this is pretty cool. One option for the cargo harbor is that you can upgrade that to add a railway connection, and that then gives you access to cargo train, so you can connect that to the rest of the city and make your public transportation, or cargo transportation, I should say, much more connected and performant throughout the whole city, utilizing your means of transportation to the areas where you actually need that. And just to confirm, when they talk about the milestones, so they mentioned that Cities Skylines, each transportation option was unlocked by reaching different population milestones, which resulted in similarly built cities, as each option was always unlocked at the same time, regardless of the player's need to use them or not, which I mentioned before. In Cities Skylines 2, with the exception of buses and taxis, which unlock with milestone progression, each transportation type is unlocked using development point in the development tree for transportation. And they will talk more on development points in a later development diary. So we'll have a lot more information about that coming next. Apart from that, they talk about the transportation overview panel and some information that's usually really good to know. Some of the things there, it's actually good practice, even on Cities Skylines 1. So, for example, adjusting the number of vehicles on a line is a good way to answer the changing traffic patterns as the city grows. If you watch my videos, you'll notice that I usually come back to my public transportation lines. Sometimes I remove them, sometimes I adjust routes, sometimes I increase the number of vehicles, change the vehicle capacity, and things like that. So I always get the most out of my my public transportation, meaning that people are not waiting too long, and that every vehicle actually can get everyone that's waiting on that specific stop or station. So this is something that's really good and will become even more important in Cities Skylines 2. But that is all that we have for today. I hope you enjoy this new dev diary for public and cargo transportation in Cities Skylines 2. Let me know in the comments if you're seeing something that I might have missed, or if you have any questions or suggestions or other comments. I really appreciate that. Thanks a lot for all your likes as well. And if you want, join our Discord server. The link's in the description. We talk quite a lot about these things, and I'll be releasing more videos, and especially on the short format for all these smaller bits in sizable bites, so you can look at what's new in an easy manner as well, and take a more deep dive on what's coming out. So for now, I want to thank you all for your time, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.